Hi everyone, Mason Winfield here with another episode of Psi-Friday with Mason. Today, in late July 2026, we're going to talk a bit more about the witch lights. But they're not called that everywhere. Actually, the technical term for potentially supernatural light forms is ALP, anomalous light phenomena. And the study was greatly advanced by two relatively contemporary paranormal researchers, John Michel, who lamentably left us 10 years or so ago, and Paul Devereux, who is still with us. They're both great minds, great paranormal scholars. They're about the same age, they probably would be in their 80s right now. And they started out maybe during the UFO craze of the 1940s and 50s, trying to understand the UFO material. And they never really settled what the UFOs are, but they started to get more fascinated with other factors of the UFO phenomenon. You notice, I would almost compare it to today's ghosts. Like a lot of people, they run around in the dark with cameras trying to validate ghosts, when to me, there's so many more interesting aspects of the study than just that one thing. And a lot of people with UFOs were running around trying to catch them. And these guys are going, well, there's a lot of other interesting patterns. And when they started following these other patterns, started going in two different directions. They did start to study the places where people were standing when they saw the UFOs. They found that to be very interesting because there was a connection between the space of the observer and the phenomenon observed. Someday we'll talk a bit more about UFOs. But for now, Paul Devereux went on to start studying the light forms themselves. Because, he discovered that a lot of these UFO reports in the newspapers, the reporters interviewed witnesses, and they made it sound like, oh, it's up there, all that stuff. And when Devereux would go back and interview the eyewitnesses, he found that they weren't describing that at all. They were describing light forms that were much more terrestrial. They were much lower to the ground. They were 30 feet, 10 feet. They weren't up in the stratosphere. And Paul Devereux began to study these. He called them Earth lights. And he started to edit a magazine called The Ley Hunter, which was a study of the ley lines. Paul Devereux is a very interesting man, very, very big mind. But in Paul Devereux's classification, he observed three different kinds of anomalous light forms that are relatively accepted by mainstream science. One of them was ball lightning. And ball lightning, it's observed a lot on ships, but it's what it says it is. It's a ball of just foaming electricity. And these were not accepted by mainstream science. They had to be validated with a camera. You had to see them on film. Everybody knew they were there, but mainstream didn't accept it until it got caught. Another type of anomalous light phenomena is the swamp lights, the marsh gas, known to folklore for a long time as will-o'-the-wisp, St. Elmo's fire, and there's some chemical process that goes on in some marshes, and it produces electrical manifestations. The third type of scientifically accepted light form, they often abbreviated EQL, earthquake lights. People in the Andes mountain range in South America would often notice that just before an earthquake, they would see these gorgeous, unusual light forms manifesting over the mountain range. And they weren't very high up. They were pretty close to the surface of the earth. And it was conjectured that under the ground, these seismic plates, tectonic plates, were grinding. And much the way flint and quartz set off a spark, these were doing it under the ground. And the energy was so titanic, it couldn't be held in. It would manifest as these lights. And that was very often the first sign of an earthquake. But there's another type of light form that we talk about that it seems potentially supernatural, well known to folklore too. These light forms they're the witch lights that the Seneca people of my home turf, Western New York, talk about. They're very prominent in Seneca legend and lore. People still see them. There are certain places where they go, well, if you go there enough nights, you look out enough nights of the year, you will see the witch lights over there. It's cool stuff. And these are found so commonly associated with places that are haunted, particularly the big ones, ruined castles, old graveyards. I think this is a beautiful, mysterious world we're in. And it's the summer now. People are out. They're out more at night. Maybe you'll see some witch lights. We'll catch you next week. Signing off, Mason Winfield with Psi-Friday with Mason.